Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's intuitive tapping break. And we're going to get going here in just a second. That's going to stop talking. Okay, cool. So, welcome again to this week's intuitive tapping break. We have a really good discussion topic today, a jumping off point, and just an overall a really good a really good topic for discussion and anchor, which is what's meant for me won't miss me. So I think that this is a really big deal for a lot of people, especially moms who feel like their schedule is packed, who feel like they can't juggle or receive any more. They don't want to put anything else on their plate, but they're also starting to understand this concept of doing things that fulfill them and prioritizing those things that do fulfill them, because that's going to give them more energy to do the other things that are on their demand list, right? So there's one aspect of that. And then there's this other aspect that we only get one shot at saying yes to something, or that we're missing out on an opportunity because we're distracted by something else, or we say no when actually after, like in hindsight, we're like, we should have said yes. The pressure to know what's right for us or what's correct for us in any given moment. I've got notes here. There's no second chances, self-doubting yourself and your decisions, your choices, and the actions that you take following those decisions and choices. And then there's this other limb of a sense of urgency, a sense of pressure. And I really want to talk about that a little bit today too, because I think that there is a level of, we need to make decisions in the moment. And there are times when we need to make decisions in the moment. There are times when we have a sense of urgency and there's a rushed sense, like it's an urgent care thing, right? Like not an urgent care maybe physically, but sometimes, right? So we need to understand where we are at, what our capacity is, what our values are. And then all of this really stems from trust, self-trust, and assurance in ourselves that we know that we're making the right choices. We know what is in alignment for us, for our family, whoever else we're making decisions for, or like participating in a discussion conversation or taking actions on behalf of or in contribution to, right? So that could be family, that could be work, that could be business, whatever it might be, right? And then it also comes down to unconditional acceptance, right? That we did make the right decisions, and that it's just, I think, another extension of building and kind of replacing that self-doubt with trust, and building and strengthening trust, assurance, and acceptance for yourself. So that's what we're going to dive into today. If you're new here, I keep on wanting to take a drink of my coffee, so I'm going to just do that. If you're new here today, say hello. Let me know if this is your first time tuning in. If you have been following along and just want to share some love, appreciate that as well. All of your comments I come back to and take a look at, and continue the conversation in the comments, or you can DM me on Instagram, info@magnetizing.ca. That's where you can learn more, and just, we can continue a discussion on in there. This is a great jumping off point. My name is Megan Mesita. I'm an energy management mentor, and I work with moms to help them leverage their energy so that they're making the most of their time. And my favorite saying is, if you want more time, focus on your energy. And this has a lot to do with that, because of, like we were talking about, the sense of urgency, pressure, fear of missing out, feeling like we have too much on the go already. So we're either not able to receive what it is that's meant for us, or we feel like we're missing an opportunity. We don't get any second chances, right? So we're going to tap on that. And the one thing that I want to start with actually is talking about this belief or this fear that we have to generate what's meant for us. We have to go out and do. We have to go out and be in the world, and we have to create that momentum within us. And that is true on some degrees, but I think in another sense that we have to really be aligned. We have to really be gathered and sorted and settled within ourselves to be able to recognize opportunities, or to recognize what we feel like we might be missing out on, or what we think might be meant for us, right? And then those things, opportunities, can come in and come to us, right? So there is a level of going out and being a little bit more external about it, a little bit more of that yang energy where we're actually generating and creating that momentum, or we're seeking or pursuing or generating those things. But then there's also a place and time for allowing, receiving, and accepting. And that, I think, is another big thing. And I've got another video in here in the archives here, the library, around receiving as graciously as we give, because we could want something, but if we can't receive what we want, then we're going to have a really hard time, right? Allowing and accepting and getting and like having what's meant for us and holding what's meant for us. So let's get tapping. We're going to start this first round with any sense of pressure, urgency. We're going to just make a little bit of space here as we move into this conversation to get a little bit nuanced and get into the deeper stuff. So if this is your first time tapping with me, just follow along, tapping on the points. You can repeat out loud after me or to yourself, whatever is comfortable. Just make sure that you're in a safe place, you're not driving or anything like that. And let's get started. So we're going to say, even though I feel like I need to make moves and I need to make decisions quickly, and they have to be right, I feel this pressure on me. And I'd like to love and forgive myself for believing that this is the way it has to be. Even though I feel like I'm in a constant rush to make decisions and take action, to make sure that I am getting the most out of my time, that I'm saying yes to the right things, and that I'm saying no to the things that don't benefit me. This is a lot to juggle. And I just want to break. I forgive myself for believing that I have to be on like this 24/7, 365 days. And I'm curious about seeing this differently today. Even though there are a lot of demands, pressure, and expectations on me in my life, I'd like to create a little bit of space today to get really clear and to become more grounded in what alignment means to me, so that I am making the best possible decisions, taking the best possible actions that benefit me and those that it affects around me. And I love and accept myself completely where I am right now. Great. So take a nice gentle breath. Let's go to the top of the head and say, I have a lot of decisions to make. Eyebrow point. I have a lot of actions that I need to take. Side of the eye. There's a lot of pressure and demand on me. Underneath the eye. To make sure that I'm doing things correctly. Underneath the nose. To make sure I am limiting mistakes. Underneath the mouth, and to make sure that I'm doing what's meant for me. Collarbone point, and what's meant for my family. Underneath the arms and others around me. Underneath the chest. This feels like a lot. This point, it's too much to know. top of the head. This is a lot and too much to carry some days. Eyebrow point. I feel like I'm missing opportunities. Side of the eye. I'm missing what's meant for me. Under the eye. I'm too busy to see things that I want to do. Underneath the nose. I'm too busy to say yes to those things that are meant for me. Underneath the mouth. What's meant for me? Collarbone point. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a priority at all. Underneath the arm. Sometimes I don't even know what that means. Underneath the chest. What's meant for me seems so out of reach. Wrist points. I forgive myself for carrying all of this burden. Top of the head. And I wonder if I can put a little bit of it down today. Eyebrow point. So that I can see things differently for me today. Okay. Take a nice gentle breath. Take a sip of water or drink if you have. Stretch, kind of shake out some of that, energy that feels like it stirs a little bit of that venting. Acknowledging the parts of you that you usually kind of avoid or like hush or diminish or dismiss because you don't have time for that part of you, right? We don't have time for that part of us sometimes. We don't have time for the part of us that's like, I'm exhausted. I just want to go lay down. I just need to like drink a cup of coffee in peace and quiet. I want to not have kids hanging off of me or husbands hanging off of me, or I don't want to be around people, or I want to have a full conversation with another adult who thinks and feels and like resonates with me without being distracted or feeling like there's a nagging to-do list to do behind me. And it's like, it can, really tuning into what it is that is meant for you is part of really understanding yourself. And this is part of the work that I do with one-on-one clients, is to really help you understand what is it that you need to fulfill you, what is satisfying and satiating for you, to you, because of the type of season that you're in, or the things that are on your plate, or just the essence of who you are on a soul level. We really want to incorporate those things into our regular everyday life that is full of schedules and kids and, carpooling and errands and running around and meetings and this and that and the other thing, right? There is a way to kind of bring cohesion and coherence to all of the things, right? And knowing who you are and what you need, introverted or extroverted, being able to recognize the different energies that you fluctuate through on any given day or week or month, whatever it might be. It's really important to understand those deeper aspects of yourself sometimes to really help you expand and explore the full capacity, and not meaning the overburdened capacity, full capacity, but the fullest expression or the fullest fluidity of your capacity as a human, like as a soul too. So that's stuff that we can do in one-on-one. I incorporate stuff from astrology, numerology, human design, gene keys, all wrapped up into not necessarily a reading, but it's just gathering all the information, and then we apply it to your actual experience, what you're going through in the here and now, and kind of combining those things to make the most out of what you're moving through and where you would like to be. So looking at what that feels like for you, like giving yourself that minute to just be in your own energy, to be in your own, to acknowledging those parts of you that sometimes get left behind. EFT is a really great tool to honor those parts of us and to really give them a voice, to be heard, to be seen. and to be acknowledged so that they don't feel like they're that little part of us that's holding us back or pulling us behind or keeping us from saying yes to the things that are meant for us, right? Or from knowing what's meant for us or for anything like that. So I think the next round here, we're going to do something around doubting ourselves, doubting our decisions, doubting the actions that we're taking, and kind of coming to this understanding within ourselves that there are going to be some things that are demands on our plates that we have to do no matter what, right? And so those things are obviously things that we need to do that need to be taken care of, and that we just have to make space for, make room for in our day or in our week or whatever it might look like, for us to also include the things that we're being drawn to, the things that kind of open up our space, that open up our awareness, that open up our, the opportunities for us to receive and accept the things that are meant for us, that can kind of shift and change the trajectory of our day or of our week, of our month, of like what it is that we're focusing on and building on. And just being able to say yes to those things and not doubting yourself or working through the doubt when it comes in, those imposter syndrome moments, or those moments when you're like, wow, I just said yes to something that is really feels like a heart yes, but it was just like, holy shit, now my body is like slammed up, against the wall, and it's like trying to put on the brakes. It's like, don't do that. So really, yeah, just kind of making space for those things. So let's start tapping on the side of the hand again and say, even though I sometimes can see what's meant for me, and I can say yes to those things, there is a part of me that sometimes doubts and has resistance to accepting and receiving what is meant for me. And I forgive myself for carrying this doubt and resistance. But I see it and I feel it. And I love and accept it anyway. Especially when I do follow through and express something that I want, and I receive it, or the balls are set in motion so that it is coming. Sometimes that's really hard to feel. It's hard to sit with that excitement. It's hard to sit with that anticipation or anxiety, all that nervousness, all that questioning and self-doubt. I love and accept these parts of me today. And I'm going to give myself a minute now to take a nice, big, gentle breath in and out. And just be with that part of me without trying to change it or manage it. Even though there's a part of me that has a really hard time receiving and accepting what is meant for me. That's okay. It's a habit and a pattern I am building. And I give myself grace and acceptance to practice this today. All right, so going to the top of the head, I'm even yawning here now because I know there's something specifically here for me too. So on the top of the head, say, I forgive myself for feeling. Eyebrow point. All of this self-doubt. Side of the eye, all of this resistance. underneath the eye. All of this questioning. Underneath the nose. I forgive myself. Underneath the mouth for questioning what's meant for me. Collarbone point. I am open to receiving. Underneath the arms, the things that are meant for me now. Underneath the chest. And it's okay. Wrist points. If I feel doubt or resistance. Top of the head. If I feel like I haven't earned it or if I'm not worthy enough for it yet. Eyebrow point. It's okay to feel those things. Side of the eye. I invite those parts of me to the table. Underneath the eyes, but I'm not going to give them the reins. Underneath the nose. I'm going to hear them out. Underneath the mouth. And then I'm going to get back into my heart. Collarbone point. I'm going to hold on to that initial feeling I got. Underneath the arms, whether it was relief or excitement. Underneath the chest, or this sense of, yes, finally. Wrist points. I'm going to tune back into top of the head. The part of me that says, it's happening. Eyebrow point. The part of me that's getting it. Side of the eye. The part of me that's receiving and accepting it. Underneath the eye. And the part of me that is so excited to finally underneath the nose. Break through a little bit more of that layer. Underneath the mouth. Seeing a little bit more proof. Collarbone point. That what is meant for me. Underneath the arms will not miss me. Underneath the chest. And so that what is meant for me. Wrist points will always find me. All right, so take a nice gentle breath, yawn, stretch, take a drink, whatever you might need to do just to kind of anchor into that energy. I could definitely feel that round for myself personally. And so maybe you are experiencing that as well. There's a seat at the table for all parts of you to express concerns and to be the kind of, I have a funny thing for myself where I'll be like, if I fall into like pity or self-doubt or, I'll have a pity party for myself. I'll be like, okay, let's just hold a space for the crazy part of me or the paranoid part of me or that neurotic part of me that just is like telling me things and making my body feel things that I was just like, what is going on here? Like, and that's okay. You know what? Those parts of me get to be at the table, but they do not get to take over the reins, or they get to take over the reins for a very short amount of time from a very observational point or from a very observational space. And if I give the reins over to those parts of me, because sometimes we just need to move through it. One of the things that I absolutely love talking about or hearing about, actually, especially I just in taking a course that I was taking about trauma stored in the body, it's like this, when we feel something, there's a process that starts in our body. There's like a chemical reaction that happens in our body. And if we don't fulfill it, if we don't allow it to process, if we don't kind of complete the cycle that it starts right in that moment, then we have all of these open circuits or these open wires that are very charged and very tender, and they're just like, sorry, I can see birds out there. They're very, they're very sparky, right? They're very tender. It's nerves that are gonna be struck, and they're gonna create, they're just constantly going to be touched. They're constantly going to create a shock. They're constantly going to create some kind of a reaction in your body that's going to be, building that proof and evidence that, whoa, you're not ready. Whoa, this is unregulating. This is unsettling. This is unnerving, right? Like we have to close those circuits in order to move past it. And so sometimes we do have to let our thoughts and our emotions and our body run a little rampant. And I highly suggest doing this with somebody with support, where you're not making decisions from that place. You're not making or taking actions from that place. You are allowing yourself to move through the motions and move through a process, and then feel that deep breath. Feel that shift and recognize that shift, and not try to carry on and make it mean something more and like, nope, let's fight for this limitation or this challenge a little bit longer. Let's get it all out. For me, it's when I take a nice deep breath. It's like when you're having those hard cries, and then all of a sudden you're like, and then you just like let it out and it's done. Okay. And then it's like, okay, well, we can be tender, we can be gentle with ourselves, we can know that we're sensitive in that little bit of the aftermath, right? But then we can be like, okay, now we're going to take the reins away. You can just have a quiet moment. What do you need to feel settled? What do you need to feel comfortable? Do you need a blankie? You want my chocolate? Like giving that kind of love and attention to those parts of you that have just kind of gone through hell and back in their own perception. And then taking the reins back, being like, okay, that's a closed circuit. We've completed that loop. What's next? And then it's like, for me, I need to be settled in order to be excited. And so after I get that kind of excitement out of the way, then I can be settled. I can be calm. I can be like neutral and observant, and I can see what it feels like actually in my body. And I can think the thoughts that are actually supportive for me. And I can feel the chemical reaction in my body and my emotions that are like, yes. Like this is where we're meant to go. And it might still feel a little nerve-wracking. It might still feel a little bit woo, right? Like new and exciting and just a little bit nervousness, right? But there's the space of me that's like settled, grounded. I'm anchored into a spot. I'm anchored into knowing a neutral kind of space. And then I can get excited. Then I can go into like overthinking mode because I'm in creative mode and inspiration mode. And I'm just like, yes. And then every once in a while, I just like check myself and make sure I'm grounded. I make sure I'm not getting too far ahead. I'm making sure I'm not banking too much on expectations that are out of my control or future, struggle and strife or whatever it might be, right? So really just giving those parts of us some space to run around, but then also knowing when that space might escalate too much and start really perpetuating that downward spiral. So anyway, hopefully this makes sense. And like I said, again, a lot of that work is one-on-one work. I do offer that. I do facilitate that kind of stuff one-on-one. And we do make sure that we're in a good spot before we actually let ourselves completely come undone, if that makes sense. It might be counterintuitive, counterproductive, but it works. I have a procedure for it. Anyway, so let's do one last quick round of just being in the energy of what's meant for me will not miss me. What's meant for me will always find me, and feeling that assurance, feeling that trust in that, feeling like, yes, you know what, that feels more in alignment now. And there's this level of acceptance and detachment almost in a way too. Like we can be excited about it, but we're not hanging our life on it. Like we're not hanging the next 10 years on this, right? Like there's going to be other opportunities. There are going to be other moments where you're going to get what's meant for you. There are going to be other things that find you. You get second chances all the time. Opportunities are abundant. And actually, one of my favorite things to say, which is interesting because my husband said it a few years ago, and he said it not to me, but he was saying it into in a letter, just in a certain circumstance that he was moving through. And I just tune into the energy of it because I absolutely love it. But it's around the lines of the choices that are available to you are not always the choices that are presented to you. And I absolutely love that. So the choices that are available to you are not always, or not only, the choices that are presented to you. That was I don't know. I feel that one. Anyway, let's do another round here, quick round, and just really stepping into that. So, even though it's okay that I freak out, it's okay that I feel like I mess things up, or that I miss things that I meant to do. I know things will come back around. And I'm ready to trust that more today. Even though sometimes it feels like I only get one chance. I only have 1 minute to make that decision. And there's so much pressure and urgency. I forgive myself for believing that that is the way it is. And I'm starting to realize that I get to command my energy, which means I get to command the energy around me. And I choose not to feel urgent pressure. And I choose to feel open, so that what is meant for me will not be missed. Even though things will be busy, things will be stressful, I'll have to do things quickly. But I trust that I am efficient, that I am in alignment, and that I do know what's best for me and for those around me. And I love and accept this part of me today too. All right, going to the top of the head, we'll say, I'm ready to step into this more today. Eyebrow point. I'm ready to be more curious. Side of the eye. About the opportunities underneath the eye that are meant for me. Underneath the nose. And I can still choose underneath the mouth to believe that they might fly by. Collarbone point, that I might miss it. Underneath the arms, to believe that I might not get a chance like that again. Underneath the chest. Or I can choose to believe, wrist points, that what is meant for me will not miss me. Top of the head, that what is meant for me will find me. Eyebrow point, I trust in my values. Side of the eye, I trust in my resourcefulness. Underneath the eye, I trust in my ability. Underneath the nose, to say yes. Underneath the mouth, and to be able to receive. Collarbone point, an abundance of opportunities underneath the arms. That will always find me. Underneath the chest, and that I will never miss out. Wrist points. I am choosing to be more open to that today. And I'm ready to see what happens. All right, awesome. So take a nice gentle breath. See what carries you today in that. And again, notice what comes up. Notice those little blips of resistance or those little bits of you that are doubting or imposter syndrome or like, you know, a lot of this stems from a lot of deeper work in receiving, like feeling that we're worthy and deserving and that we've done enough to receive, these opportunities and that they will continually flow to us. And there's not just one time, you know, no second chances. Like, honor those parts of you that do feel that, because those have been built and strengthened probably over the length of your life, right? We've all heard it. We've all seen it. We've all, you know, probably experienced it to some degree. We have all learned in some way, shape, or form. And it could be very interesting too, in that you experience this in one area of your life, but not in another area of your life. And there's just like kind of a disconnect where, you know, sometimes we can't see where we have this really strong belief that what's meant for us won't miss us in this area of life. But if we're here in this area of life, that's not true at all whatsoever. But we can transfer that belief and we can borrow that belief and we can build and strengthen that belief from one area to the other. And yeah, sometimes it's really hard to kind of discern and see and kind of like, sometimes we need to compartmentalize those things and really understand certain areas or aspects of our life in order to build and strengthen the other area or aspect of our life that we're working on. And yeah, like I said, this is what we do with one-on-one sessions. Yeah, we take a very deep dive look at that. So there's free sample sessions, free consult sessions that I am offering right now. And you can find that in the description below. I'm also, if you hop on my newsletter right now, we are moving through a really cool little process over the month called A Month with the Moon, which is really also helping you build and strengthen that and cultivate that awareness and understanding of your personal mood, mindset, and motivational, the fluctuations between them, and how to use the moon phases as a template to work with those ups and downs over a monthly period of time versus trying to figure that shit out on a daily basis, because we don't work on a 24-hour clock as women. We work on a monthly schedule. So that's always an interesting thing to look out for. And yeah, so I hope that if you liked this video, if it resonated with you, share it, like it, subscribe. And yeah, like I said, comment below anything, questions, discussions, and we can carry on the conversation down there in the comments. Anyway, have an amazing rest of your day, an amazing rest of your weekend, and we'll chat with you next week. Bye, everyone.